Down for a little walk by the river here. River's high. It's been melting. But I was thinking about some time that I had with the kids over the weekend with the guns. And, there's a lot of people out there that don't ever spend time with their kids and guns. And hey, to each their own. I get that. But personally, we find it a really enjoyable pastime. I find it really educational for the kids. It's good for their learning process. It's good for their enjoyment. It also teaches them a lot of maturity and respect. Teaches them a lot of safety rules, the ability to follow directions concisely. Anyway, so I thought I'd have a couple pointers for anybody who's looking at getting into shooting with their kids and what that looks like, how to do it safely. So kind of want to drop a few of those. Number one, start with something small when the kids are small. Start with the 22. This is kind of common advice on that. The problem with that is you don't want to end with a 22. 22 is great when you got, maybe a little kid. I'll post a little bit of footage here of my kids learning with the 22. It's great. What's so great about it? First of all, it's cheap to shoot. Like 22 ammo is so cheap. So, you know what? If the kids miss a target or two, it's not a big deal. You don't worry about it. It's no big loss of investment. Second of all, there's pretty low noise compared to a hunting caliber, and there's very, very little kickback. So, they're not gonna experience a big recoil that's kind of gonna make them a big gun shy. It's really, really simple. They're usually lighter frames too, so they're easy to handle for smaller kids. So it's a great place to learn. If I could offer you some advice on that though, don't stay there. If that's all they ever learn, they won't get the full picture, and they'll also get bored with it probably pretty quick. I'd highly recommend, once they've learned the basics, moving up to a hunting caliber, maybe a smaller one, move up to something like a 223 or 270, something that's got a decent kick and a decent recoil, enough that they can kind of experience that and learn that without, giving them a big shock like a 300 Win Mag that's going to give their shoulder a big punch. Second of all, I would definitely say use some variety. Kids get bored easy. So if you're just doing the same thing every single time, we sit in this exact place and we shoot this exact way, this exact same target, you're not going to get the same value out of that. I was doing some good reading and studying this week about learning process, and variety has a lot to do with that engagement. I'd highly recommend mixing it up. Tin cans are great for kids when they got the 22, because it gives you a visual and auditory feedback to what they're doing. It's good for them. Once you move up to the hunting calibers, gongs are awesome. The kids love them. My kids, I set up a gong at 100 yards. They love sitting there. They line up, they get their sight picture, they do their box breathing, and then bang, they pull that trigger and they get that ding from 100 yards away. And every single time their face lights up and they just get the old arm pump going and they're all excited, right? Mix it up. If you could throw a little bit of tannerite in sometime, awesome. Talk about engagement then. But at the same time, it's really good to do some paper targets and show them how to get a feel for what's happening. Also, talking about variety, mix up what you're using for sighting. Teach them iron sights. It's awesome. Kids love iron sights. They're fairly instinctive to them. For most kids, highly recommend that. But also teach them how to use a scope. Red dots are great. If you got young kids, lasers kind of will definitely get their attention pretty good. It's nice and simple. They can say, hey, that red dot there means that's where it's going to hit. Boom. And it's good for kind of teaching them the basics of trigger control, recoil control, loading, unloading, safety, all that kind of stuff, while they're still being able to put holes in paper, right? Obviously the big one is safety. Teach them safety. So to me, this is one of the strongest points of teaching kids about guns, is teaching them how to use it safely. Do your kids know what muzzle sweep is? That muzzle should never cross another person. Do they know how to load, unload? Do they know how to check and see if the gun is truly safe, if the chamber's empty? Do they know how to make sure that they have, their fingers where their fingers belong? No fingers inside that trigger guard unless they're actually ready to put holes in a target, trigger finger discipline. These things are really, really important. If your kids learn this stuff, they learn how to never, ever, ever use that gun unsafely. It's going to become second nature to them. And it's going to do a couple things. First of all, they will learn muscle memory, so they'll be efficient with that gun. If you're ever using it in an actual usable method like hunting or actually target shooting, it's going to make a big difference for them. Another thing with that is they get an inherent respect for that, and they just don't treat it like a toy. You see kids, every year there's some unfortunate accidents. We get accidental firearms deaths, and man, heartbreaking when it does happen, right? This is probably the best thing you can do to help prevent that. Those kids know exactly what to do, how to do that, and it's drilled into them how to operate it safely. There's very few accidental discharges that are likely. It's really, really unlikely. And it also teaches them a lot of respect for the people that are around them when they have that. It's interesting because my kids, I find that they have an inherent heightened sense of safety when we are dealing with firearms, because that's been drilled into them since they were little. They know, hey, I pay attention to that firing line. I don't go behind that. I don't go past that. I handle the firearm this way. When somebody's talking, I listen. We're not moving fast. We're paying attention, and we're paying attention to everybody around us, right? And we're all celebrating when somebody gets they get a good shot, and boom, they hit that bullseye, and everybody's cheering them on, right? So it builds team, it builds camaraderie. Strong families have stronger outcomes. That's just a fact of it. So highly recommend that. What shooting tips would you offer for kids? Let me know. Drop them in the line. Give me your best resources. Oh, one other thing is definitely, it's easy to forget about, but pay attention to hearing protection. We all should be using hearing protection when we're shooting. Really, it's good for us. You can damage your hearing, and hearing loss, besides the obvious, it also, believe it or not, can affect memory. Hearing loss has been proven to affect your memory. It reduces your short-term memory. So pay attention to hearing, and we found some hearing protection that works really good for the kids. I'll drop a link somewhere below to what we found, and if you like it, you can go ahead and go there. But definitely find some good hearing protection for your kids. If I find a link to one of our favorite 22 targets down there as well, I'll drop it for you guys. It's an awesome little reactive target, cheap like borscht, but man, the kids love it. It just bounces around and gives them good feedback. So anyway, give me feedback. Let me know what you do when you are teaching your kids gun safety and how to use firearms responsibly, and love to see what you guys got. Thanks.